Domo arigato, geek to me radio, da 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 da. Domo arigato, geek to me radio, da 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 da.
Welcome, 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 geeks and nerds, girls and boys, to a brand new episode of Geek to Me Radio. Tonight, we have director, artist, writer, producer Joaquim dos Santos joining us. We're going to talk about as much as we can. We'll get Across the Spider-Verse, Legends of our Voltron Legendary Defender, Legend of Korra, all that and more. Plus, we might have some news on Two Rivers Comic Con. Stand by.
We're talking TV, comics and movies, and video games. And if you don't know Star Trek from Star Wars, we'll try to explain. There are 12 doctors for Hogwarts houses, one ring rules them all. To be the greatest Pokemon master, you must catch them all. You must catch them all. Try to catch them all. Gotta catch them all. Gotta catch them all.
And if you were driving around the greater St. Louis area tonight listening to us on the Big 550 KTRS, hello to all of you. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you are streaming us on the KTRS app or on our website, ktrs.com, thank you very much for finding us there. If you're watching on YouTube and Facebook, hello, we've got video tonight, which means my executive producer, Joey V, is in studio with me as well. And of course, if you're hearing us after the fact in the podcast form on whatever platform you get your podcast, we appreciate you finding us there and listening each and every week. We just got a really nice shout out on Michael Rosenbaum's podcast. He was very kind and gave us a little shout out for the Justice League podcast that Susan and I do. And he said he loves me. So I don't want to put any labels on it, but I think Michael and I might be taking things to the next step. We'll see how it goes. But in all seriousness, thank you very much, Michael Rosenbaum, for that shout out. Very kind of you to do so. We do appreciate that very much. Very excited for my guest tonight. He was on twice with us for the aforementioned Justice League Revisited podcast. We'll probably try to pry him back on because he's got a lot more to be said for the rest of this season, upcoming Justice League Unlimited, as Susan and I work our way through. We've got Joaquim dos Santos joining us live right now. Thanks very much for your time on a Sunday.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited.
This is exciting. I mean, there's so much to talk about. We tried to keep it kind of blinders on Justice League when we had you on for the show with Susan and I, but there's just so much more that you've done and continue to do. It's very exciting. I know the Across the Spider-Verse was huge. Into the Spider-Verse was big. Across the Spider-Verse really leveled things up. Talk about getting attached to be able to direct that project. Was it overwhelming at any point, or by this time is it you're an old hat and it's just another day at the office?
It's all things. It's, I think I definitely had, sort of a track record of work to sort of like fall back on. And the times where I was feeling artistically insecure, I could say like, I know what I'm doing. I've been doing this for a long time. I feel this is what I'm good at. But I think any artist worth their salt has, moments of insecurity or moments of doubt or moments of self-reflection where you're like, I'm not the artist that I thought I was, or, so yeah, it was all those things. It was my first feature, so there was a lot of learning to be done. I'd been TV all before that. But I think what really helped me was everything that I'd been a part of before that. I think we sort of, in our brains, whether it was right or whether it was wrong, or we just sort of treated it as film or cinema or something that we'd want to see that had dramatic integrity and high stakes and fun and all that stuff. So a lot of it still applied.
And when you're brought in on something like that, obviously it's quite a bit different when you're taking the reins on a project that you're starting out with. This was already, obviously, this is kind of, you're kind of, to put it in Star Wars terms, you're Irvin Kershner coming in on Empire Strikes Back and kind of taking the reins of something that's already been established. Was there a bit of a comfort in that for you, the fact that the groundwork's already been laid, I'm just taking the baton and carrying the story forward, or was it a little bit more of a, gosh, I wish I'd had my hands in this from the beginning?
Well, it was interesting. So I had a meeting with Phil and Chris really early on, and this was before the first film was, while the first film was still being conceived.
Okay.
And I was already committed to another project, but I think it was, hey, let's just meet these guys and see if there's a vibe, and we connected really well. And then I went off and did a series over at DreamWorks, and then they started working on the film, and it kind of went dark as far as I was concerned. Like, a Spider-Man film was in production, but it was just in the void of space, and so I didn't really know what was going on with it. And then I think that first trailer dropped, and the world sort of saw it, and we all saw it while I was working. I was like, holy moly, this is the thing they were doing. This is crazy. But it still hadn't, the film hadn't come out. Like, there was definitely some hype building, and people were really excited it was Miles Morales' story. But then I got a call from the head of Sony Animation, Christine Belson. It was a cold call. I never answer my phone if I don't recognize the number, and I didn't recognize the number. And she said, hey, are you about wrapped up on that series now? Would you like to come and direct the sequel to Spider-Verse? And I said, yes, I would. She said, come in. We'll screen you the film. You'll meet Phil and Chris again, and you guys will have a chat. And so I screened the film, and it was then, again, it hadn't come out yet, but it was then that I realized, like, oh my gosh, they're like breaking new ground. They're doing things that nobody's seen before. And so I signed on to do it. I was like, yes, I'm very excited to do this. But then the film came out, and then it started getting all this like critical acclaim,
right.
And then it won an Academy Award, and then all of a sudden the shoes that I was stepping into got like way bigger, and the stakes were like, oh boy, all right, I got a bit nervous, but then I got really excited at the same time.
Yeah, and I was kind of distracted by all the stuff on your desk back there. As I mentioned, Irvin Kershner, I see you've got the Micro Machines.
I do.
Bespin, it looks like Bespin and Hoth, I think.
The whole Hoth set. I've got a story behind that. My mother, for a birthday present for a friend, we went to Save-On, and she got him the Hoth mini set where, you push the button, Luke goes through the window. Yeah. And I wanted it so bad. And I was just telling the story the other day to my wife. But as I was giving it over to him, like, happy birthday, I was like, like, you're going to have to pry this out of my cold, dead hands. I wanted it so bad. So when I got a little disposable income, those were some of the first things that I bought, where I was, the one that got away.
Right. I had that same thing happen, except for me, it was my friend Gary, his birthday party. We were into He-Man at the time, and I'm giving him a Wind Raider from the Masters of the Universe collection. I'm like, happy birthday. But little did I know, my mom, who was a saint, had gotten me one, put it aside for Christmas just 3 months later. So
amazing.
She knew. There's always those little touchstones of childhood. It's like, why didn't I get that toy? But
that's right. That's right.
That's
for me, it was that and Crystar. Crystar was sort of a lesser-known toy line from Remco that had an amazing comic book run,
yes,
with covers by Michael Golden. And if anybody's a fan of the band Danzig, the big horned Danzig skull, that was from Michael Golden's cover.
Correct. Yeah, in fact, it's funny you're mentioning that, because we just had Terrificon in Uncasville, Connecticut, the beginning of August. And when I say it's not Ralph Macchio, it's Ralph Macchio, the writer and editor from Marvel Comics, who created Crystar along with Jim Shooter, and they kind of formed that. I just talked to him, and the year before that, he said, oh, I remember I worked on this project because I bought him a Crystar #1 for him to sign for me. Oh. He goes, I wish I had these. I said, wait, you don't have this run? He goes, no, I wish I did. I was able to track down all 12 issues, and I sent them to him. And he was over the moon. He saw me this year, shook my hand and gave me, he's, I can't believe you did that. That's above and beyond. So we're going to have Ralph Macchio on the show again later this year to talk about Crystar and some other stuff. So if you're interested, we'll have you on too. So
happy to. Yeah, it was. I remember it was a rainy day in elementary school, and my friend, everybody got to bring in a toy on rainy days, and he brought in a Crystar, and I was so just entranced by the clear blue plastic. I had to have them all, and I didn't get one of them again until I got older.
The castle playset, it was like the blue plastic crystal castle playset. My mom got it for me on like JCPenney clearance for like $10.
Oh, and I spent way more than $10 on it as an adult.
I wish I'd kept it, because now those are going for like almost $1,000 if they're in the box still. It's crazy.
Yeah. And it was, from what I remember, it was pretty flimsy, because I think
it wasn't.
My friend had it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
It wasn't Castle Grayskull.
No. It was certainly not a Castle Grayskull or a what was the one from Brave Star? Fort.
Oh yeah. What was the Brave
Can't think
Star
of the
one?
name of the Brave Star one though. Fort something. But yeah, we grew up in the best time. The toys, the cartoons, the
my
action
gosh.
figures. I was just talking to the last show host about waking up on Saturday mornings and just sitting there watching cartoons with my bowl of Cookie Crisp and just good
greatest.
times.
It was the
times.
greatest.
But and here as you see, this is what happens sometimes. We go down rabbit holes. I was wanting to talk about
Sorry.
you and your career and all this stuff.
Yes,
you've
yes,
done. But talking about those '80s features, there are so many times when I hear that someone's doing a remake, and I cringe a little bit. I recoil inside. I'm like, I gotta say, for my money, the two best remakes of '80s projects we've had have been the recent DuckTales that Disney Plus did,
Fantastic.
and
Yeah.
Voltron Legendary Defender. Absolutely
so much.
wonderful. I love that series.
Right on. Yeah, that was a dream gig for sure. Voltron was right up there. It was one of the pillars. And I can remember when we first got the project, it was part of this big initiative that DreamWorks was having at the time where they were pushing into, creating a lot of like TV content and stuff that was going to be on streaming.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a 78 episode pickup right off the bat.
Wow.
So we looked at this like schedule that, unrolled like some ancient scroll from the before times. And we were like, oh my gosh, this is like a 4.5-year run of time here. We're going to be very different people by the end of this.
Yeah. I mean, it was, and were you, because you were obviously in on that from the beginning, did you have a hand in helping with the casting at all? Or is that, because you obviously worked with the great Andrea Romano, who is dear to my heart, but did she take that over? Did you have any input during the casting process?
No, I mean, it was a real handhold. We started the casting process. And then, I think because of both Lauren Montgomery, who was my producing partner on it and also worked on Justice League with us and is just the best human being ever. We both worked with Andrea. I think at some point we were like, can we please call Andrea and have her help us through this? And she's, so we sort of started the process pre-Andrea, and then she came in midway through and really helped us get it over the line.
We had Bex Taylor Klaus. It was the first year of my radio show when I launched it, when you guys were right in the middle of season 2 had just dropped, maybe.
Yeah, wow.
Bex Taylor Klaus came on, and they're just the best because they went into detail about this moment they had in the booth with Andrea, where Andrea had Bex stay on for additional ADR. And they both broke down and were just crying after one of those emotional scenes where Pidge finds out about her dad being alive still, everything like that. And just, she said, they said that Andrea came in the booth, just held their hand, and they both just sat there and cried for like 5 minutes with the performance that Bex gave. But it was just such an amazing show. And to have Bex, we've had Kimberly Brooks on, and Jeremy and Josh have both just said that was one of their favorite projects they ever did.
It was such fun watching everybody perform off each other. And again, like Justice League, it was the rare opportunity that we had a lot of people in the booth at the same time playing off of each other. So the camaraderie was really there. Bex, I remember they had such a heavy lift with that scene in particular because it was just Pidge. Essentially, the camera was like inside of Pidge's helmet.
Yeah. Picking
up every little bit of nuance, and Bex just left it all out on the table. It was amazing.
Yeah, they were great because they were like one of the very first voice actor guests I had. They said, yeah, sure, we'll come on. And we had them for an hour, and it was just an incredible experience. And, they just raved about Voltron, how great it was. It was really cool to hear. And that's when I really was like, okay, if the cast is this excited, then I know I'm not the only one who's like, oh, this is really cool. So that's
awesome.
And the toys that came out, the Funko Pops. It blew up, and I just loved every second of it.
I was always so amazed and continue to be amazed by the ingenuity of so many of the fans that either cosplayed or made amazing like toys or stuffed animals that looked like you could sell. I mean,
Yeah.
this is, send this to the product people at all these companies, because this will sell out.
And I know you weren't involved with it, but DreamWorks also did She-Ra, which was,
Yes.
I think, and again, as someone who grew up with all these, it's kind of cool to see all the renewed interest in these properties that I grew up watching on Saturday mornings and grew up getting to see and experience. It's surreal in a way,
Yes.
but also quite gratifying.
I agree. And I think, I cannot speak for anybody on the crew of She-Ra, but I know for us, for Lauren and I, when we first came on to do it, the thing that we sort of always said, and I've said in plenty of interviews about Voltron, was we were trying to make the show that was kind of in our mind's eye. It was sort of the takeaways we had as kids watching it that might not have even been on the screen, but it was storylines that we kind of put together in our heads, and the drama that played out as very serious to us when we were kids. And upon second, third watching as adults, you're like, oh, that was like thinner than I remember, or a little different, or this moment really scared me, but looking at it now with adult eyes, it's a little silly. So we just tried to bring all that stuff to the table and infuse the show with that.
Yeah. It was great. And I want to get to the text because I just saw Dan Reba's listening currently. And Dan Reba
my gosh.
Dan says, hi, Joaquim.
Dan. The greatest human. The greatest human.
From Dan Reba on the West Coast, we've got Chance Bartels, our friend listening in Atlanta, Georgia. Happy Labor Day weekend. Chance says, hello, Chance. Thanks for listening. And right here in St. Louis, we've got Shannon. Our friend Shannon's listening. Hello. Hope that everyone's having a great weekend. I'm usually very bad about checking the chat, so I'm trying to keep my phone right there so I can keep the eye on that and the KTRS text lines. If you're listening right now and you're like, hold on, people are texting, yes, you can either watch us live on YouTube or Facebook. Just find Geek to Me Radio on either one of those platforms, and you can type in your text and listen or watch live. Also, if you're listening on the stream or listening on the radio, KTRS text lines at 84126. Just type your name, where you're listening from, and if you have a question for Joaquim about any of the projects he's worked on as we get through. Gosh, it's already 18 minutes into the hour. Let me take a real quick break. We're going to pause here just a moment. We're going to come right back after this, and we'll chat more. We'll take your calls and questions if you have them. Otherwise, we know I can talk, so we'll just keep going. You're listening to Geek to Me Radio on the Big 550 KTRS. Please stand by.
Enter the world of Voltron, where thrilling adventures let you soar beyond the limits of your imagination. Where the valiant Voltron force merges together in their robotic lions to challenge the might of King Zarkon's demonic minions and menacing machines. You can join this never-ending battle between the army of evil and the champions of justice, with the fate of planet Aris and the entire universe at stake. Voltron action figures, lions, and vehicles each sold separately from Panache Place.
Cobra can run, but he can't hide. The G.I. Joe Crusader's hot on his trail. Nobody beats G.I. Joe, G.I. Joe Crusader. Cobra is shaking with fear. Crusader's gone blasting from the stratosphere. Gotcha!
Launch the Avenger!
The Crusader and Adventure are one top team.
Gear down!
Awesome! Nobody beats G.I. Joe, a real American hero.
Crusader comes with pilot and Avenger.
Yo, Joe!
The Transformers, more than meets the eye. Autobots wage their...
And dogtownpizza.com.
This is Kevin Conroy, the voice of Batman. You're listening to Geek to Me Radio.
Kevin Conroy, the voice of Batman, bringing us back. You're listening to Geek to Me Radio on the Big 550 KTRS. I'm your host, James Enstall. The only thing that could have made Two Rivers Comic Con better this past May was having Kevin attend to. Obviously, we had Carl and Phil and Susan and Maria from Justice League. Dan Reba joined us, as well as Alan Burnett, plus a host of comic book talent. like David Michelini and Mark Bagley, Roy Thomas, Chuck Patton, Keith Williams. And we're doing it again. In case you weren't aware, we are doing Two Rivers Comic Con happening April 25th and 26th. Back in historic St. Charles, because we love St. Charles so much, and it's just a great place to host these events. And I haven't made this official on the Instagram and Facebook yet, but we are getting ready to announce tomorrow officially Andrea Romano will be joining us this year at Two Rivers Comic Con. We are super excited and over the moon to have her. She doesn't do a lot of Comic Cons, but I always talk nicely about her. I think she said, well, fine, James, I'll come. But we're so gratified to have her there. We've got a bunch of other announcements locked in that will be rolling out, so make sure you're following Two Rivers Comic Con on Instagram and on Facebook, the number Two Rivers Comic Con. And the reason we're holding them in St. Charles is because not only do I love St. Charles, obviously the Greater St. Charles Convention and Visitors Bureau is a sponsor of Geek to Me Radio, the premier sponsor, actually. They're the first people who sign up. When I was going around pitching this radio show, they're like, yeah, we want in. How can we help? They've been with me ever since. So 9 years now they've been supporting the show, and we've got a lot of different ways you can support them. There is a raffle currently going on, a St. Charles raffle. If you love Main Street as much as I do, and you hear me talk about it all the time, we've got that link. Joey V is going to put it in the chats right now, so you can check that link. And you can also, if you're listening to this after the fact, it'll be in the show notes. You can click on that link and go to that raffle. There is a big Christmas thing, so you can ride in the carriage with Santa at the parade. You will also get tickets to Las Posadas, which is this gorgeous event that happens I think the second Saturday in December. The reenactment of Joseph and Mary looking for room at the end. It just, the whole of St. Charles is lit by candles as people process. It's a fantastic celebration, and you can get in on a lot of those other raffles that are available there at that website as well. But check out the main website, which is discoverstcharles.com, discoverstcharles.com. We were just down there. Sugar and Slice, which is a fantastic bakery. They've got macarons. They've got cinnamon rolls that are larger than my head. They've got iced coffees and fantastic things like that. They had doggy cupcakes, so we took Grimlock in and got him a doggy cupcake. I'll post those pictures soon. I just haven't had a chance yet this weekend. But whether it's Sugar and Slice, whether it's First Capital Trading Inc., whether it's the Cozy Shop, whether you're getting some barbecue from Salt and Smoke, these are all small businesses. All these restaurants up and down Novellis, whatever it might be, the Mother-in-Law House, Magpies. Go there and spend your money, because you're not giving it to a corporation. These are small businesses that have been there, in some cases, quite a while. And you just sit out in the patio in this gorgeous cobblestone streets, have a glass of wine, hang out, bring the dogs for a walk. A lot of the restaurants are pet friendly, so feel free to bring your dog out for a walk. You can sit on the patio at Bella Vina's and have some flatbread and hang out with your dog. What sounds better than that? One of the greatest compliments, since I know Dan Reba is listening, Dan Reba came for Two Rivers Comic Con this past year. He's been on the show several times. He hears me do these live reads that I'm doing right now, and he said to me, James, you undersold this place. That's how cool it is. So coming from Dan Reba, I mean, that's a big compliment. So if you want to check it out, maybe you're on the West Coast, like our friend Joaquim. Maybe you're listening from Atlanta, like Chance, who's listening. Maybe you're from the East Coast. Maybe you're from Alton, Illinois, haven't made it across the bridge lately. Check out the website first, discoverstcharles.com. As we always say, it's an historically good time. Chatting now for the rest of the hour with Joaquim dos Santos. We've got, I want to make sure I'm not neglecting any of the chats. Shannon says, only the best for Grimlock. Of course, only the best for Grimlock. You'll appreciate that, Joaquim. My little Chihuahua Terrier, his name is Grimlock, because that's my favorite Dinobot. So, I had to name him appropriately.
Amazing. I love it. I love it.
So the other projects I haven't had a chance to talk to you, I'm going to try not to tread ground we tread on Justice League, because I know we had you on for 2 different episodes there, and it was getting your insights and everything, and the story you told about Bruce Timm's leg shaking during one of the screenings. I love
Dan knows. Oh
yeah, Dan Reba. Yeah, Dan Reba. We told Dan that story. He goes, oh my gosh. He kind of came back to him once we reminded him. But all these projects you worked on, I'm curious. You wear a lot of hats, like we said, director, producer. There's art department. One of the ones you did all those hats on was Green Arrow, the short that came on.
That's
How
right.
is when something like that? That just they tell you, hey, you're going to do everything, or do you kind of like, I can direct this as well? How does that come about?
Well, I mean, I think it's. I don't know how many shorts WB had done up into that point, but I think they were of the DC shorts. Of course, there have been plenty of animated shorts, but we were in the thick, sort of like the prime time of a lot of those direct-to-video movies coming out, and they wanted to introduce other characters through these short-form stories that would accompany the DVDs and stuff. And it's way easier to do that when you're working on a short and you don't have, episode upon episode upon episode or a full feature film to direct. But even still, I had my hand in a bunch of stuff there. But I think because my starting point in animation was storyboards, which is it's kind of the nexus point for a lot of stuff. You're interacting with script, you're interacting with design, you're interacting with directors and producers. They're giving you feedback, you're presenting back to them. For me, that became sort of the easiest road to dabble in a little bit of everything. So yeah, I mean, I've always loved drawing, so I think along with storyboards, I would sort of design characters that I'd want to see in the background if they weren't already designed and present them. And yeah, it was just an easy transition to make, I guess.
And the role of the art department that you worked on not just the storyboards, but character design and things like that. And one of the talking again, a kind of not a reboot in the way that we got it with DuckTales and Voltron, but G.I. Joe Resolute.
Oh my gosh!
Almost felt like a bit more of a continuation, or it was not a. I wouldn't. Would you qualify it as a reboot? Really?
Again, that the idea there was just that was the stuff that I would play. In the dirt with my G.I. Joes. That's how I would play.
Yeah.
So it wasn't, I mean, you can see them. They're right there in the background. I got a ton of original Joes.
Oh my gosh, you do.
So that was a huge pillar for me, and obviously loved the cartoon, but it could be frustrating when you're on one hand watching Aliens, James Cameron's Aliens, and you're seeing gritty sci-fi, war stuff, and then you're watching the animated series, and anytime like a plane exploded, a little parachute would come out. So G.I. Joe Resolute, the sort of mission statement there was like, hey, how do you take the nostalgia that we had for all those characters through the 80s, and then present them in a way that was grittier and had stakes and had, people maybe not surviving those explosions.
Yeah, even the toys that came out from that line were really cool. So when you're working on the character design, from an artist sensibility, like you said, you've got the look of Duke from the Sunbow Marvel Productions in your mind. You've got the look of Scarlet and Snake Eyes. How do you as an artist keep that nostalgia while still adapting it for a newer style? Obviously, every artist has their own style.
Sure.
I would imagine that would be a huge challenge because in my mind, I'd want to keep it as original as possible, but obviously you're wanting to update it, you're wanting to make it different. Talk about your headspace going into redesigning characters like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of, if you look at Duke, I mean, he's essentially like a World War II era grunt, from the series. So I think it was just about keeping the essence of the character and making them more contemporary to what the military looks like today. I think one of the touchstones that we were looking at the time, and I mean, it's unavoidable, but when you think about what G.I. Joe was this sort of like meeting of like sci-fi, military with like a dash of fantasy in there as well. And then I think about a contemporary franchise like Metal Gear Solid. Metal Gear Solid is essentially the G.I. Joe of the modern era.
Right.
So we brought in a lot of those touchstones, Call of Duties, like the Call of Duties that are pushing the edge in terms of the technology and stuff within the game. They're maybe like 10 years out from where the military is today. That was sort of the area that we were playing in. So I knew in my head and in my heart what I loved about the silhouettes of those characters. So retaining all that stuff, Gung Ho still looks very much like Gung Ho, but we just took little things and sort of pushed them around. So it was really just using my nostalgic heart and then marrying that with contemporary takes on military fantasy.
I'm sure you're much busier than I am, but I'm not sure if you had a chance to read now that the image property, is now doing the G.I. Joe series, and Larry Hama is still writing that series, 316 issues later now. But to your point, they've updated. Now they're doing these clone hybrids, and Dr. Mindbender now has this upgraded exoskeleton. And it's just the fact that Larry Hama is still doing this from 1982 when he started.
Yeah.
But it is so updated, and there are, like you just mentioned, this kind of sci-fi and more gritty, realistic elements in the comic strip. I'm not sure if you had a chance to read it yet or not, or check it out, but it's so good.
I haven't had a chance. I've heard nothing but amazing things, but I will always remember reading the file cards in the back of the toys, and those to me have the right blend of gritty, like, ooh, this sounds pretty serious. As a kid, like, ooh, some of these things sound kind of heavy, but then also these fantastical elements, and that blend, it was that Larry Hama blend that just felt tonally exactly right.
Yeah. And I've always said, because obviously Larry Hama is the godfather of G.I. Joe. He created the names, the characters, him, and then Ron Rudat obviously created the designs of the vehicles. But I feel like Bob Budiansky doesn't get enough credit, because he is basically to Transformers what Larry Hama was to G.I. Joe, because he created the names for these characters and gave them the backstories, everything just like Larry Hama did. But I'm not sure why Bob doesn't get the same recognition. It's kind of odd.
I know. Yeah, you never know. I mean, time just sort of does what it does.
Were you more of a G.I. Joe guy than a Transformers guy, or was it a little bit of both? Or
it was a little bit of both, for sure. I mean, I genuinely shed a tear. I remember being in the theater and crying when Optimus died. And then also, I remember, I at the time, when I was a kid, I couldn't remember if it was a fever dream, but I've since been proven that it was correct. I remember going back to school and saying, they said a bad word in the movie. And Spike does say a bad word in the theatrical version.
Yes.
And nobody believed me, because they were all watching it on VHS, and it had been scrubbed from the VHS one.
That's why you always have to go to this theater, folks. That's why I always tell you to go check out your local theater and check out the movies that are playing on the screen at the time. Do you collect much? This is, again, a rabbit hole. I'm sorry, but do you collect much physical media? Do you collect out of DVDs and Blu-rays and things like that? Or?
I have an entire wall full with DVDs, and there was a time when I first got into animation. Every Wednesday, that's when at the time it was laser discs, but then it quickly transitioned to DVDs and then Blu-rays and all that stuff. So we'd go out every Wednesday and get whatever the new releases were.
Yeah.
And I still have those. I don't collect as many today. Now, like, for fun, I'll collect old Betamax tapes and those big clamshell VHSs and stuff, just because I like the way they present.
That goes back to what we talked about when I first had you on Justice League. I said, gosh, I feel like we must have been separated at birth, Joaquim, because I just bought I got it for a stupid deal. I'm like, you're selling this whole thing? I got the original set of whatever was 20 at the time, I guess 16 Bond movies, the actual CBS Fox logos on VHS.
Yes.
I'm like, I know I've got a VHS somewhere, but I just liked the movie poster look on the front of them. And so I'm like, I don't know that I'll ever watch these, but for the price that the guy was selling them for, I had to get them.
I was obsessed, with all the Romero zombie flicks, and the cover for Day of the Dead was done by a guy who worked a lot in comics, Joe Chito. And again, I blew a lot of money when I first got into animation. I started making disposable income, but a buddy that was working on Justice League at the time, amazing comic book artist Dave Johnson, he said, hey, my friend who works in one of the auction sites, he came across the original painting for the Day of the Dead VHS cover, and so I bought that thing for way cheaper than it goes for now. But it was the first piece of original art that I had bought that I still have hanging up to this day.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's kind of one of those things where people are. I got a friend of mine who buys collections, and then he obviously breaks them up, resells them, and everything. But he always tells people that I sell people back their childhood, because he has people come to him and be like, "Oh my gosh, I wanted this Nintendo game, or I wanted this comic book," and he's like, "Yeah, we can make that happen." So it's just
it's the best. He's a dream maker.
I was just talking to somebody else. I feel like that '80s was that I don't know if that was the golden age, but for animation, you had that. We had that three-pronged attack of, like I said earlier, the toy line, the comic book, and the cartoon, and we got all three of those shoved on us. And sometimes breakfast cereals would come because there was a GI Joe breakfast cereal.
For sure.
But we always had those toy lines, and the Voltron was by, I think, Panache Place. You had the giant castle of lions and the things like that. But I don't know what it is about stuff now, but I know, for example, we talked about with Greg Weisman, we talked about Young Justice got canceled after its second season because the toys didn't sell well. And I find that inconceivable today. You've got a great cartoon, here comes a toy line. I don't know what's changed, but it seems like that would have been, again, that should have been a home run.
Yeah, I mean, I got a 10-year-old now. He's about to be 10 tomorrow. Toys were sort of in and out of his life really, really quickly. And, he's into video games. He's into, he does a ton of sports, but really, I think video games have sort of filled that void. I can remember collecting and being excited about going to Toys R Us long into the point where my friends were already getting into girls and stuff. And, I sort of had to go underground with my collecting because it wasn't cool for a little while. And when I went into middle school, it was like, you still have toys in your room? I was like, yeah. I mean, it's it's cool. I just got them here. They're just cool.
Right.
But I think that I don't want to say that there's always hope, but I think the collectors, toys now, they're mainly sold to adults like us.
Yeah, the McFarlane toys that the new Superpowers toys that McFarlane Toys is doing is a prime example of that. It's not kids buying those. It's mostly people I see stalking the aisles at Walmart. They're usually a little my age, a little older, and they're kind of a beard. Right. I'm like, oh, okay, I know what you're here for.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I mean, that is what that is.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, let me check to make sure we're not missing any questions here at all. BK on the air, listening from Cartersville, Georgia. Hello, BK. Thanks very much for checking in with us. KTRS text lines were good there. Let's go ahead and take another quick break. We will come back in just a moment. Again, if you have a question or a comment or anything you'd like to ask Joaquim, we will pass that along. Text us at 84126 on the KTRS text lines or leave it in the chats. We're going to take this brief break. We'll be right back. You're listening to Geek to Me Radio on the Big 550 KTRS. Please stand by.
Robbers. You'll be the robber.
Okay. The new Hot Wheels USA Builder set. Sheriff Patrol Car, Camaro Z28, sold separately.
Which going up?
You have to put the set together, and you can change it around.
Hey, wasn't there a road here?
Not anymore, Dad.
Hot Wheels USA Builder set. Not for use with Hot Wheels Hauler. Hot Wheels cars sold separately. New from Mattel.
The Legoland Beta 1 command base. You build it for action. You can pretend the radar sounds an alert, a signal to the crew. So you slide them to the launch pad for a make-believe rescue. And how about the new mobile rocket transport? You can drive it over make-believe craters, then get ready for flight. You can lower the rocket, pretend to fire, and blast it out of sight.
The action's up to you.
The new Legoland mobile rocket transport from the Legoland collection. Legoland Beta 1 command base sold separately from Lego Systems.
Light bright, turn on the magic of colored lights. Light bright, make a face to glow at night. Smiling.
See if you could save in as little as 8 minutes at ProgressiveCommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
Hi, I'm Bex Taylor-Klaus from Voltron. I play Pidge, and you're listening to Geek to Me Radio.
I knew it was there somewhere. Bex Taylor-Klaus bringing us back from this commercial break. Make sure you check out, I think it's still streaming on Netflix, if I'm not mistaken. You can check out Voltron Legendary Defender. If it's not, oh, that's disappointing. Well, maybe, I don't know if it did it. I'm going to bring Joaquim in for this because I haven't done my live read yet, but I'm going to go and bring him in. Did it ever get a Blu-ray release or anything like that?
I don't think it did, no.
Oh my gosh. It
just got recently.
That's yeah. I was gonna say now that as soon as I started to say that, I'm like, ooh, did I see that in the ones that fell away? That's disappointing. It was. I'm surprised they didn't do a Blu-ray. That's weird. Anyway, if you've been listening and we've been kicking up some nostalgia for it, and you're like, boy, you know what? I used to have some of those toys, and boy, you know what? I'd like to get back into some of these comic books they're talking about and everything like that. Well, have no fear. Bugs Comics and Games has you covered. You can go check them out on Bryan Road in O'Fallon, Missouri. easily accessible from either Highway 70 or from 364. Go out there and tell Larry that you heard about it on Geek to Me Radio. He's got back issues, lots of back issues, and I would say it's not a real comic book shop unless you can dig through long boxes full of back issues and find something cool hidden in there. He's got dollar comics, $2 comics, $5 comics, $10 comics, and then the regular priced as they are. He's got a wall and a couple of display cases full of comics like the first Black Panther, like the first Silver Surfer, if you're into some of that Silver Age. We just celebrated Jack Kirby's, I think, 107th birthday a couple of days ago. But so he's got some of those gorgeous Jack Kirby covers in his store as well. So whatever your price point is, there'll be something to fit your collection. Wednesday is New Comic Book Day, so you can go in there, and if you can't get in on Wednesday, start a pull list. Say, hey, these are the titles I want. I want to make sure I get Mark Waid and Dan Mora's World's Finest, which for my money is one of the best comics DC's putting out right now. I want to make sure I'm getting Amazing Spider-Man. I want to make sure I'm getting Incredible Hulk, and you'll have those comics held for you. So if you can't get in a New Comic Book Day on Wednesday and something sells out like Ultimate Spider-Man has been doing lately or whatnot, it'll be tucked away in a shelf waiting for you to come in on Thursday, Friday, or whenever it is you're able to get in there and get your new comics. Bags, boards, toys, a lot of the cool vintage toys he's got in there as well, Pokemon cards, a little bit of everything. So join the Avengers Club. That way you start saving money on your purchases. Every time you make a purchase, you can save some money. Don't sacrifice your hobby in this economy. You can do both. You can get your comic books and your toys and your bags and your boards and everything and still save some money, all at Bugs Comics and Games. Follow him on Facebook and Instagram, Bugs Comics and Games. He'll put books up there that he's got for sale. So if maybe your local comic book store closed during COVID and you don't have one local to you anymore, Larry and Bugs Comics can be your local comic book store online. Check him out and give his page a like on Facebook. Follow him on Instagram, Bugs Comics and Games. If you're local, make sure you go out there on Bryan Road and check him out. Bugs Comics and Games, very proud to have them as the official comic book sponsor here on Geek to Me Radio. Talking with Joaquim dos Santos. We had a question from our friends at Mostly Superheroes. They know you worked on Avatar, The Last Airbender. That's been coming and making its rounds in concert. Like they show it on the screen and then they do. Did you have any involvement or input on that at all? Or was that specifically just the orchestral stuff that the music department took over?
No, so Jeremy Zuckerman, the composer, I mean, he's hugely involved in that, as are Mike and Brian, the two creators, Mike DiMartino and Brian Konecko. I know they're immensely proud of it, and I mean, Jeremy is a absolute genius musician. So that's kind of their baby. But it is so cool to go see that. They did one for Spider-Verse as well that was incredible, and it really changes the dynamic. There's a moment I can remember being at like a Comic-Con, and we were doing the teaser for the third and final season of Avatar, and I can remember a music cue hit and the crowd reacted, seeing the visuals with this music cue, and I got goosebumps like I have never gotten them before in my life. You could sort of feel that energy in the air, and being at these concerts, you feel that same energy. It's a different thing. It's a whole other experience.
Well, I remember even in grade school, we'd have field trips where they'd take us to Powell Symphony Hall downtown St. Louis, and we'd see the orchestra conduct a thing. But it's a completely, I mean, I grew up playing violin and then upright bass all through grade school into high school and everything. So I've always enjoyed music, and I've loved discussing it and everything like that. But it's a completely different experience when you're sitting there and you're watching Empire Strikes Back up on the screen and then have the full orchestra, the St. Louis Symphony Orchestra conducting it. You do get those chills because it's that combination of that immediate live music coming at you, and then you're seeing one of your favorite movies or your favorite projects up on the screen. It's intense.
It's really intense, and you can feel it inside. You can feel it like reverberating inside of you. It's something else.
Do you remember, did you have like one of those pieces, like, I just mentioned going to the Powell Symphony Hall, and they would do different pieces for us, like Dance Macabre, or we'd have some Giuseppe Verdi and things like that. But do you remember having one of those moments, a field trip or something that you took, and it was some musical cue or something you saw or something you were out doing that kind of resonated with you and really stuck in your memory?
Oh, I remember, this was a really young age. I can remember taking a field trip. I want to say this might have been like preschool. And I wouldn't recommend doing this to preschoolers now, but they went and took us to see Dumbo. And the scene with Dumbo and his mother, I mean, I don't remember anything. I remember smelling like pine needles outside. I remember these very weird like memories. But that I remember seeing that and feeling so affected by the gravity of that and thinking about my mom in that moment. Yeah. Oh, it just hit me.
Yeah. I mean, there's always those little childhood things that we, it's weird how some stuff sticks with us. Might, at the time you'd think it's maybe insignificant, but that is something that just kind of really resonates depending on who sees it when and they're in their development.
That's right.
We have someone from the 636 area code just asked, Joaquim, do you have a favorite project you've worked on before? And I'm not sure if you can pick your favorite child or.
It's really tough. I will say, I have so many. I've been really, really blessed with working with so many talented people. But I can remember first making the transition onto the Avatar crew and feeling like, when I was at Justice League, I felt like a kid working with a bunch of like adults that really knew so much about cinema and so much about how these things were being made. And I was a sponge and I was learning. And I remember going onto the Avatar crew and working with a bunch of people where we were all sort of pulling from the same pool of nostalgia and the same pool of like loving these types of anime. And it felt like I was kind of more with contemporaries in that time. Mm-hmm. And being really excited. I felt like, oh, I belong to be here. Like this is, I don't have to ask as many questions. I think I can suggest some things and have, so yeah, that felt really special. And I've made friends along the way, throughout my entire career, but a lot of friends that I made, on Avatar, I'm really still tight with to this day.
And the Legend of Korra is another big one that the popularity of that is another one of those worldwide franchises that just people, when you see something like that and you see your work is, it's translated into different languages and people all around the world are enjoying it, that's got to be such an immense feeling of pride to be like, I had a hand in making this happen. It's
surreal. I mean, because I am affected by the things that I grew up watching. So to meet people and have them say like, hey, that thing that you were a part of really touched me in this way. I am exactly that person. Like I can pontificate on why I found, Terminator and Aliens and Raiders and Empire and all those things, why they made such a lasting impact on me. And so, yeah, it means a ton. And it is surreal. It's very weird and but I think that's the thing to keep in mind. Like whenever we have like con interactions and signings and stuff, there are times where, people are like maybe a little nervous to come and talk to us. It's like, just remember, like, we're not sitting doing any of this unless we were exactly you watching the same content and being affected by it.
Yeah. And I know it's so cool to hear Stan Berkowitz and Dan Reba and Rich Fogel and Paul Dini all talk about how they were fans. That's why I think that's one of the reasons that Batman the Animated Series and Justice League Unlimited were so good. It's because it was created by fans like yourself, like the people I just mentioned. And that I think that's just why those are next level shows.
Yeah. I mean, they just, they tend to get it. And, it's interesting because I'm now old enough to be working on IP that was created in my generation, but maybe not understood by the adults that were running the show at the time. And we're almost embarrassed by some of the IP. Mm-hmm. And now I've been on this earth long enough to where the IP's landed back in my lap. And I go like, okay, here's why I think we'll do right by it, because we understand at its core what it was trying to say, and we don't have to sort of be embarrassed by the material.
Right. And I think it's a different thing, too, because I just did a convention in Chattanooga, FarleyCon, where they had a lot of the G.I. Joe voice actors, like Michael Bell was there, Bill Ratner, Mary McDonald Lewis, Lisa Raggio. And there's all these people my age, and again, a little older, a little younger. I kind of skew right in the middle of the demographic, I guess, but they were just gushing, and they had action figures that they were having these voice actors sign. And I love seeing that. It's just such a cool feeling to be like, wow, all the stuff that I got shoved in a locker for when I was in junior high is now cool.
Totally. 100%. Yeah. I mean, I feel like we're definitely living in the era where the geeks sort of were able to come out of the closet and go like, hey, this is all right. This is cool. I can't tell you how many people I know that have like D&D sort of groups that they game with, you know, and you'd think like, oh, that's a lawyer. Like that's a, you know, and when I was a kid, a lawyer was just an adult person that did adult boring things. And didn't really. So yeah, I think it's really cool. We're definitely living in like a sweet time to be a geek.
Absolutely, especially the Gen X. I kind of feel like we should be now recalled the greatest generation, you know, because that's just the way things are. But if you're listening, we're just tuning in. Hello, everyone outside the KTRS window. Hello. We got a group outside the window right now. If you're just now tuning in, this is Geek to Me Radio. We have Joaquim dos Santos. The hour's flying by. We just got a little bit of time left. We have a YouTube question from listener Enid Rodriguez. Wants to know, Joaquim, is there anything that you wished had gone differently plot-wise in Voltron Legendary Defender at all?
Oh,
did you guys?
I mean, look, it's a huge question. There's a lot that I think, you know, we would have, you know, done differently. But I mean, there's a lot that I think we had a lot of fun with and we did right. It's tough to look back and like, you know, ask yourself those questions. But I will say, like, being an artist, like one of the tortures of being an artist is there's stuff going back to like episodes of Men in Black and Starship Troopers that I worked on when I first got in, and I'm like, oh my God, why do we make those decisions? But yeah, I mean, that's just, you have to move forward and learn from the experience of those things and try to course correct along the way as you usher in new projects.
Right. To that point, as because you said in the very beginning, Voltron was the first one we talked about. You said you had the 76 episodes kind of laid out in front of you. Was there anything that happened during that process that made you, not you personally, but the group who was in charge, kind of pivot at all and be like, oh, based on this, you know, based on the things we're getting from John Rhys Darby or Kimberly Brooks, we're going to kind of pivot the story a little bit to kind of excuse them. Did that ever happen, or was it pretty strictly laid out at that time?
No. I mean, we didn't have like the entire thing mapped out from the beginning, and we definitely had to make pivots based on, you know, executive interactions, based on, you know, how certain characters were becoming more popular and stuff. I think the thing that we learned was try not to chase too much. Just try to. You know, it's almost like listening to like an algorithm. You can't make good content by looking over your shoulder and saying like, this is what was working yesterday.
Yeah.
I think the reason something like a Spider-Verse works so well is because they weren't looking back and saying, let's do the thing that is kind of like that. They sort of took a big step and said, we're going to try new things. So I think that was, for me, like the biggest learning lesson. But we didn't, we had season 1 kind of mapped out in the beginning. We didn't have the entire arc of all 8 seasons. And in fact, it wasn't even 8 seasons to begin with, because they started getting kind of arbitrarily broken up by how they landed on streaming.
Yeah. But I think that's so cool because, we mentioned Dan Reba several times because we love Dan Reba, but he's been on the show and they talked about it at the time, they'd have a season of Justice League or Batman Adventures out and the internet wasn't around. So they might see some fan mail or some reaction after an entire season had already been released. So they didn't know what was working and what wasn't. And now with Voltron, you were able to get that immediate reaction from people on Twitter and Instagram who were already shipping Keith and Shiro and everything like that.
Oh yeah,
it was crazy.
Yeah, I mean it was instant, and I feel like we weren't at the forefront of that by any stretch. I mean, it had been happening already, but we were like a real groundswell for people were pretty adamant about where they wanted to see things going.
Yeah.
And you just sort of, we were all trying to figure it out at the same time and ride the wave of it. And at the same time, make sure that we were like, we had like a giant toy partner attached, and they were like, hey, you got to put these things in to make sure toys are selling. Right. And then we had, a network that was like, you can or you can't do these things. So we were just trying to navigate all that at the same time. It's a wild ride.
I was so sad because I think they only made 3 of the main figures. I think they made Keith. Was it Keith, Shiro, and Lance were the only 3 they made? Am I correct?
I want to say there might have been a hunk as well.
Okay.
But I'm not sure. I can't quite remember. But I do remember having a very disheartening series of meetings with like some toy execs kind of begging, like, please don't put the princess in one of the lions and blah, 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 because it won't sell toys. And it just, I remember looking over at Lauren, she was like the day walker at the time. She was like the female artist that in equal measures loved Voltron, loved Sailor Moon, loved Gem, loved Thundercats. So for her, like the Toys R Us toy aisle was a wide open smorgasbord.
Right.
And even though I think society was maybe funneling her more towards Barbie, she was like, screw that.
Right.
I love it all. So I remember looking at her and seeing that we were all kind of crestfallen just hearing that. And we didn't listen. I mean, we wanted to make sure that Allura got, the sort of what she deserved.
Yeah.
And getting a lion and all that stuff. So you got to navigate those waters, as a showrunner and as somebody who sort of becomes the creative like face of the thing. It can be treacherous at times.
Yeah. I can't believe this hour has already flown by. We've got about a minute and a half left, and I've got pages of stuff we haven't actually gotten to yet. But I'd love to have you back on again if you're up for it.
Absolutely.
I don't want to keep you too much longer here because, like I said, the next show is going to kick on. But if you wouldn't mind, you've heard a couple of these return liners from Kevin Conroy and from Bex Taylor Klaus. Would you mind giving me, and you can do anything you want in the middle as long as we get, hi, this is Joaquim dos Santos, and you're listening to Geek to Me Radio.
Sure thing.
Go ahead, whenever you're ready. Yeah.
All right. Hi, this is Joaquim dos Santos, and you are listening to Geek to Me Radio, the geekiest and most awesome show that is out on the airwaves.
Perfect. We're going to have to do it again because, like I said, there's so much content, and I just feel like I feel like we're old friends. Like we just hear and talk for a couple of hours.
Happy to.
Tell people if they want to keep up with you more online. I know you're on Instagram. Anything else, any place else social media-wise they can find you, or is Instagram the best?
I think I got an X account or a Twitter account that I don't really use, to be honest with you. It exists, and I think if it gives me the option on Instagram, I'll like repost to Threads just because it gives me the option. But Instagram's really like the place that I do most of my work.
Perfect. We'll have a link to Joaquim's Instagram on the show notes if you want to scroll down at the bottom of the page and check that out. Again, so appreciative of your time. It's been fantastic talking with you, and hopefully we can do it again down the road here soon.
It's my pleasure. Happy to do it whenever.
Appreciate it. Thank you. That's going to wrap the show. We're going to play the outro music here now. Thank you to all of you who listened tonight. Thank you to our sponsors, the City of St. Charles, Greater St. Charles Convention and Visitors Bureau, DiscoverStCharles.com, Bugs Comics and Games. Check them out on Facebook and Instagram as well, Bugs Comics and Games. We've got more people outside the KTRS window. Hello to all of you out there. We've got a window outside and people just kind of walk by in the mall. It's kind of cool. But thank you for all of you who did question and comment and listen tonight. And we're going to have some more announcements coming about Two Rivers Comic Con. If you're a G.I. Joe fan, you're going to want to see the announcements we have coming down here in September. So stick around for that. Until next week, my friends.
It's not in the way you look when you make Game of Thrones references. That's our show. This is Geek to Me Radio. That's our show.
Good night.